Hi, everyone. I'm loath to say good evening because it's not quite evening here, but I know that in England it is evening. So we're here. It's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So wherever you are in the world, let's just say hello. Yes, we are cracking up. I'm here with my spirit guide Gregor, as most of you who know me will know that, standing right here. But I'm here with my best friend. She's my bestie. Are you my bestie, Kay? This is so I'm here with Kay, and we are cracking up. If you're looking for this show at all, don't spell cracking with a C. No, it's cracking with a K, as in K and RA. Cracking. We're cracking up. In England, let me just explain this. In England, if we're cracking up, if somebody says, "Oh, I was cracking up," what does it mean, Kay?
Laughing so hard.
Laughing.
Your sides.
Yeah, laughing so hard. Exactly. You split your sides. So when we're cracking up, it means that we're having fun. We're laughing. We're giggling. So if you joined us to tonight or this afternoon or wherever you are in the world, if you joined us expecting a serious show, well, we will be talking some serious stuff, and we'll be talking because we've got an interesting, what I think is an interesting topic. I'm asked this all the time by so many people, but we'll also be laughing and having fun as well. So we have this British sense of humour going on. So if that's not your thing, you need to click that button now and get off, because we're going to just be having some fun. So this is my friend Kay. We're here with Cracking Up. We have our facilitator somewhere in the background, Chris. Let's say hello, Chris.
Hello, everyone.
So she'll be fielding questions. If you want to ask questions, there is a chat room. You can go into the chat room. You can ask us anything you like. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about a particular topic, and then you get the chance to put in your tuppence worth, 2p worth. As we say in England, you get a chance to ask a question or give your opinion of what you think. So here is our topic for today. And I started this off this morning, actually, when I did my Instagram. And if you haven't seen the Instagram, you'll see that. And I will continue talking about it either today or tomorrow on YouTube in a little bit more depth. So here is the topic for today that Kay and I are going to discuss. And of course, the topic might change. We never quite know whether we're going to stay on topic or whether we're going to veer off into something else. But I have so many people ask me. So here is the question that people ask me: is our life preordained, or do we make choices? Do we have choices? And so we're going to sort of, I'm going to talk for a few minutes, and then Kay, I want you to give your opinion on what I've said and what you think about. What does it mean? What does it mean? Is our life preordained? What does that mean? Does that mean that prior to our coming here to this earth, everything is planned? That we are merely puppets, and God or some higher force. When I say God, I always sort of, in my head, it always resonates with me that God is only dog spelt backwards. So whatever you want to call that higher force, that higher spiritual force that we know is around, and for easy purposes, we will call it God. So that higher force. Does that mean that someone in the spirit world, or some being or some entity or some kind of energy, does it mean that when we come to this earth, we're like puppets on a string? We know, because I've talked about this a lot, we know that there are certain things in our lives that we're meant to experience. We know that there are certain people we're meant to meet. We know that there are certain situations that we have to deal with, which are, I think, preordained. And over the years, the more I've learned, and the more I've learned from Grey Eagle, and the more that I've learned from talking to people in the spirit world, the more I realize how little we we are in control of our lives here on this earth, and how much the universe determines not just who we are, where we are, but how we are too. Except for one little thing, sort of hold that thought. But are we just puppets on a string, or do we in some way have any say in the matter? And can we influence our lives in any way, or are we simply just walking through life, sort of, walking down this straight line, or like little ants crawling all over the place, but with no actual purpose that we know of? I mean, so people ask me all the time, what is my purpose? People talk to me all the time about, especially if you lose someone in a particularly awful situation, for instance, a road crash, or I remember a few years ago, I was on the Lisa Gibbons show. You can find, by the way, you can find that on YouTube if you want to. And I can remember this lady who had lost her son, and he was in a crowd of people he didn't even really know. And there was some sort of shootout, and a bullet that was meant for somebody else actually hit him. And so, we hear this being said all the time, don't we? We're in the wrong, he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. But I remember talking on the Lisa Gibbons show and saying, well, I do think there are certain things that we have no choice in whatsoever. The first is that when we're born, and the second is when we die, because I don't think we can die before our time. So that must mean then that we're not in the wrong place at the wrong time. We're in the right place at the right time. Because I also believe that when God calls us home, we got no choice. Off we go. We might want to struggle about it. We might not want to accept it, but there are certain things about our lives that are actually set in stone, and certain people we are actually meant to meet. Kay, you may completely disagree with me on this.
No,
so I'd love to hear your
I'm conflicted because I've made so many bad decisions, and against good advice, I will add.
Really?
Really, it's strange that, isn't it? I made so many bad decisions which I didn't realize were bad in the making, and only until like 20 years down the line I'm really, oh my goodness, that was a shocker. And it's fine to think that you're in control of your life, and it's fine to think that you can make all these decisions. But if I'd only just been a little bit more temperate and a little bit more cautious and listened to people around me, I perhaps wouldn't have had as much fun, but I wouldn't have had as much heartache either.
Yeah,
So I think there are choices based on things that we've learned. We make choices based on who we are and what we've learned. And I've been lucky enough to have lots of other things given me to help me with these choices, but have chosen very often to ignore it because I'm very willful.
Well, I actually think that, and I totally hear, I can completely understand what you're saying. I mean, we've all made what we call mistakes.
Yeah, of course.
But
yeah.
if things are preordained, those things actually aren't mistakes, are they? They're not mistakes. They're things
joyful.
they were experiences that, despite choices, because if everything's preordained, we don't have choices. But I think that, what we might consider mistakes, and we look back on them and think, oh God, if I'd have done this, or if I'd have only listened to that person, and so on, the life would have been easier or better, or what have you. But I actually feel very strongly that I don't believe in coincidence. I think that
No.
things are meant to be and meant to happen. But I think that, you know, when I sort of first, years and years ago, I first struggled with this idea of, you know, everything's preordained and we're meant to do this and we're meant to meet that person, so on and so forth. I really struggled with it because I'm a very independent person and I like to make my own choices about things. And I did not like the idea of God or some higher force up there sort of pulling the strings as if I was a puppet. And I struggled against that. But I don't so much think that our choices, I do think we have choices, but I think the choices that we have are not so much about whether we marry this person or whether we have 5 babies instead of 4, or whether we eat toast in the morning or whether we have. So I don't think our choices are about this, you know, the material life that we lead, or the you know, the people that we meet or the people we get involved with. I think our real choice, and I think it's probably perhaps the only choice we have. This is my belief, and I want to hear what you say, because I love it that you're showing a different side to what I'm saying. But I think the only real choice that we have about any of this in our lives is the choice of our attitude.
All right. Yeah.
So I think, you know, what did I used the analogy the other day. Okay, so let me give you this analogy, and then I'm going to hand it back to you and see what you have to say. And then, Chris, do we have anybody there? Is there actually anybody there? Or are we just having this great conversation?
Yeah, we have people here, and there's already a lot of comments.
So what we're going to do is I'm going to give an analogy. I'm going to ask Kay for her opinion, and then we'll see. Then we'll go to the chat room for a little bit. So my analogy is this. Okay, so I'm going to use baking. You might know I'd use a cooking analogy, right? So I'm going to use baking. So here we are. We're making a loaf of bread, and we make sure we get all the right ingredients, and we leave the dough to rise. And if we've got all the right ingredients and we leave the dough to rise, that actually means then the chances are that when we've put it in the oven, then it comes out, we put in as it should be, exactly right, then the consequence of that is we get a delicious loaf of bread. Okay? Consequences. So you make a choice to make the loaf of bread, and you make the choice to leave it and or let it overprove or underprove or whatever it is. And the consequence or the result of that is you have a good loaf of bread or a lousy loaf of bread, right? So when we come across a situation that we're in, here we are, we've jumped into the situation, we've met someone, we're meant to meet them. And I know this from a personal point of view because I see people all the time, and I talk about the future with people all the time, and I see, and we can see that, you know, there are certain things in life that they're not going to be able to avoid. They absolutely are going to come across this situation. But what they do with it, how they handle it, how positive are they about it? Do they become bitter and angry about something, or can they stay positive? And it's very hard sometimes, especially when we're faced with difficult situations. It's very hard to, let's just say, take the high road. But however we deal with this thing that we're involved in, this one experience, our attitude can, I think, can in some ways determine that next little stage that we're going through. It may not it may not affect
what
the
has
people
happened.
going to meet. It may not affect a lot of what's going to happen, but I think we can learn from our experiences if we have a right attitude. The next time an experience comes along, we know better how to deal with it, or we're more able to deal with it. Am I making
absolutely right.
sense?
Absolutely. Yes, yeah. I do remember several times over the last 40 years, and probably more, where things have happened that haven't been planned and haven't been good. And I do remember knowing quite specifically, this is a decision. Where am I going to be? How am I going to react? And honestly, I think maybe 5 or 10 minutes of a dropped, a bottom lip, feel sorry for myself, then get up and get on and get it sorted. And I think have been quite positive and proactive in getting things back on track, or moving onwards to as I would have called at the time, plastering over the cracks to make it workable until the next thing comes along. So I don't think I've sat and wallowed in misfortune.
But again, that's a choice. That's your choice.
Yes.
That's when I say I think we have a choice. I think the most important choice we have is our attitude
absolutely
to what comes at us. Because life, if anybody ever said to me, "Oh, I've had a real easy life and no problems," I honestly would not believe them. Or I would think they've buried their head in the sand and they're just refusing to accept reality, because life is about the experiences. Life is
dealing with stuff.
I mean, Gregel tells us, and do you remember the old lady with no teeth who used to come to us?
Oh yes, she was amazing, wasn't she?
Used to come to us when I was doing trans work years ago, and this lovely old lady, she'd always come through and she'd announce herself. I'm the old lady with no teeth, and gosh, she was amazing. That woman was amazing. What she didn't know was not worth knowing. She could tell you, when you were 3 years old, you lived at this, and she'd give you the address, she'd give you the time, and you had and this and this. I mean, anyway. But where am I going with this? But she would say, do you remember that time? It was Christmas time. And she said, if I could give you a gift for Christmas, what would it be? And it was, and everybody,
world peace, love,
world peace, all of that stuff. It was Christmas. We were all feeling that way. And she quite clearly said, if I could give you a gift for Christmas, and this sort of sticks in my head, I'm sure it does in yours. If I could give you a gift for Christmas, I would give you the gift of tears. I would give you the gift of pain, and I would give you the gift of heartache, because it's only through these things that you will really learn and grow. So when we're experiencing all this stuff, and this is not all bad stuff. We have fabulous things we experience, and we have terrible things we experience. We might not have a choice about those things coming at us, but I think the most important choice we have is the attitude that we have towards those things, and sort of whether we can. And it's difficult. It's not easy for people. I grew up with a mother who was so mean and angry and bitter, so I know what that's like, and that helped me to remember, don't go there. Don't go there. So that helped me with my choices, because as tough as it is, and as easy it is to fall into that depression and become angry and bitter when things are not working out, if you've got an example of looking at someone and what it does to them and how it destroys them, so our attitude, I think, towards what happens, I think they're the consequences that we either reap the benefit of or we suffer from. I think it's, it's hard to have a positive attitude when you're not feeling like it. but I think you and I are both, that this is why we're such good friends. We both have that
ability.
Yeah.
Even I do remember thinking, I don't feel like putting a happy face on. I don't want to, and well, just pretend. And once you start pretending, you're becoming. It becomes who you are. And, and that's it. Yeah.
That's right. Every day you go out there, you put a smile on your face.
Yes.
At some point, and this happened to me personally, at some point you realize that it's not a fake smile anymore.
No, it's real.
Hold on a minute. I really am smiling.
I think, oh, what hell, let's just do it. Let's just, embrace this.
Okay, so let's
embrace this.
If we have comments or questions or whatever's going on, Chris, let's see what other people have to say about this subject. Is our life preordained or not?
All right. First comment is from Violet.
Hi, Violet.
If our life is planned before we get here, do we agree to it? Because if we get to choose, I must have been drunk when I agreed to this.
Well, that is, I will answer that question, but briefly, because we want to get on to other people. But I do believe this is what I think. And I only think this because Greg has been able to help me with this. And when we do our subscription program, these are the things we're going to talk about. And we're going to talk about much more in depth than we can do today. But I think that prior to our birth here, I think there are so many people much more wise than we are. I think we come here because we want to have an experience of one kind or another. For whatever reason we want that experience, whether it's to learn, to grow, to become more spiritual, or whatever the reason is, I think, when prior to our coming here, I think we choose to come here, but I think we choose to come with help and advice and guidance. And so, we're dealt this hand, but I think we are only a part of the process of choosing. So you might have been just a little tipsy, Violet, rather than completely drunk. But I happen to know Violet, and I happen to know your life, and I happen to know that, yes, believe you me, I know how tough it's been, but you are a lovely person. And I think those experiences have made you a kind and a good person. So, it's the we go back to the old lady, if I could give you the gift of tears. And who wants that gift? I mean, who wants it? It's the gift. It's the gift that life keeps giving us, but it's the gift we could turn away if we didn't. But it's such a valuable gift, because if we didn't experience the heartache and the pain, we wouldn't be the people that we become. And hopefully, because we make the right choices and we make sure we have a right attitude and use that attitude really well, we become better for those things. I often say, when I get back up there, when I go home, for instance, it's like, if somebody said to me, or if Greg said to me, okay, let's do it again, would I do it again? Would I do this again? And, there's a part of me which really, really, really doesn't want to do it again, because, but then there's another part of me which thinks, but if I hadn't done it this time, I'd have missed so much joy and so much wonder and amazement. So, they might have to twist my arm at my back, but I would actually probably agree. Yeah, okay. I've got more out of this life, more positive out of this life than more negative out of this life. So I would do it then.
Don't say it out loud. Don't say it out loud.
Let's keep going, Chris.
All right. Judith is asking, aren't we here for experience and to make choices? That's the best way to learn lessons, painful or not.
Yes, but what I am saying, which is, I'm not sure if Kay is saying this or not. I'm not sure if we're agreeing here or we're agreeing to
Go
disagree.
on, I'll tell you.
But my choice, what I am saying is that the only choice that we really have is our attitude to do things in a right way, in a good way, in a positive way, to be kind and gentle and loving and understanding and patient. And we all fail at it sometimes, but striving towards those things, choosing is about choosing the right attitude.
Yeah.
So that this is to be clear, that is what I'm saying. I really believe that the only real choice that gives us consequences, that makes life better for us or worse for us, is the attitude that we have to dealing with all of those things that we're here to learn from. And yes, I do think we're here to learn and grow. But according to the little old lady with no teeth, we're going to learn and grow through tears and heartbreak and so on. But I don't think we grow just from that, because when I look at my grandson, I listen him play the piano, my heart just swells. My heart just absolutely swells with joy. So I think we have painful experiences and good experiences, and the difference is our attitude. We choose to appreciate, we choose to value, we choose to use our attitude to make life better, or we choose to do the opposite. Chris, next question, and then Kate, you're going to answer.
I'm trying to remember all the things I'm thinking as he's talking. You ought to write it down.
All right. Vale says free will exists, but I believe that yes, each of us has our own destiny, and I don't believe in coincidences.
No.
Something happens because it had to happen.
Yes.
There's a follow-on. I know skeptical atheist people. They don't believe in religion or obviously in spirits. Has Rosemary ever had the opportunity to make this type of person change their mind?
Oh, tons of time. Tons and tons of time. I'll give you one instance. Okay, and free, and when we're talking about free will, I absolutely believe in free will, which means we are free to choose our attitude. That is where I feel free will comes in. But I'll tell you a quick story then, Kay. You know, you take over. And Kay, I bet you'll remember this. We were in a hall. There might have been 1,000 or 2,000 people in this hall, and there's this one guy, and he's sitting somewhere in the middle, on the left, and apparently his wife had dragged him there, but he was not a happy camper. He hated it, didn't believe in anything, didn't believe in not a thing. And I think this event must have been held in a hotel, because there was a bar, and right, so just remember that. And I came to this guy, and he was no for everything I said to him. And I remember saying to him, I'm told you own a red car. And he's obviously thinking, oh, she's got scouts out looking to see, you know, where I park my car. So and then I told him something else, and then something else. And then suddenly, and he very obviously said to me, look, you know, I don't believe in this. And then I gave him a message that he was quite a large, robust man with a ruddy complexion, and he literally paled in front of the entire audience, because whatever it was that I told him sort of was, nobody could have known. Kay, you've seen that. How many times have we seen that? And this poor guy showing half time, somebody actually pointed him out to me. I mean, he was so shocked, affected, maybe a little scared, I don't know. But the first thing he did was he went to the bar and he ordered a triple brandy. So he needed some spirits to get over the fact of spirits. I don't worry if people don't believe. Everybody's got their right to believe or not to believe, and I'm not in the business of persuading other people. So whether it doesn't matter to me whatsoever. Kay, have you ever seen that somebody didn't believe?
Time and time and time and time and time again. And honestly, mostly men, strangely enough, in the audiences, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And a few stalwart, cranky old ladies who weren't going to let you get the better of them.
Can you remember? It just reminds me. We do veer off topic a little bit, but we will come back to it. Get ready for your questions and your comments, everybody, because I'm going to tell you this very brief story. I can remember I had this event in a school, but there were about 2,000 people in this event. And
was this in UK in early days?
Yeah.
Yeah, Doncaster.
And I had to sort of come from the back of the hall, and people were facing the front, and I was walking towards the stage. But as I'm walking down the aisle, there are people, that's her, look, that's her. And people were pointing and whispering and so on and so forth. And somebody in the audience told me afterwards, she was sitting behind these two ladies. And then everybody's going, that's her. Look, that's her. And this one lady, she was sitting in front of, rather, said to her friend, she said, "Can you smell it?"
That's right.
Do you remember that? Can you smell it? And this is why we're cracking up. And her friend looked at her and she was completely confused. She said, "Can I smell what?" And this woman said, "Death." Death. And I'm thinking, God, I hope not. I thought I'd put my perfume on today. But people have weird ideas of what we do, and people have weird ideas of how things are. And a lot of people get afraid because they don't know or they don't understand. But yeah, that's from years ago. But I still remember people have strange views of what we do. And I had this guy come up to me once right in my face and say, "I don't believe in what you do." And I just said, "I actually think I know what I do, but you're entitled to your belief." Walked off and left him. So anyway, let's have another comment, Kay, and then you can go.
Just trying to get my head back to what you were talking about. Yes, attitude is the only thing that we really do have control of, but it's taken me a lot of, and I say it not really wanting to say it because I don't want to have to think that I'm relinquishing any control that I have of what I do, where I go, how I speak, what I say. Well, of course I can, that's all in my control, but I would really like to think that there was more, that I can just cast my arm out and control that bit more of the environment or that bit more of what that person's going to say. And of course I can't. But as to things coming at me, I was going to say I think I have control until I remember the thing I talked about last month about the car thing. Had no control over that at all.
Right.
And that was a real slammer.
Yeah. You sort of, you suddenly realize, I think, or a lot of us don't realize when we're in different situations, how vulnerable
we are. Yes, and I don't like that at all.
How vulnerable we are with our physical selves, and how vulnerable we are, and how much we're vulnerable.
Yes.
Very often having to rely on or to be making other people's decisions.
Awful.
Can affect us. Right, Chris, let's keep going.
All right. Annika says, I feel like the outlines of our life are sort of chosen before we enter this life, but we also have a lot of, quote, wiggle room within those lines.
I agree with you, and back to my point is that I think that's a perfect way of putting it. Actually, Annika, that's a great visual. But I think that the wiggle room comes when we have an attitude, whichever attitude we choose determines how we wriggle, where we wriggle, and the consequences of that wriggling. Because for every action, there is a reaction. You know, we throw a pebble into a pond, right? And we watch the ripples on the surface, and the surface of the pond completely changes just by that one small action of throwing that pebble into the pond. What we don't see and what we don't get often is that while we can actually visibly see the ripples on the pond on the surface, though that pebble's going deep and creating ripples under the surface, under the surface, under the surface. And we don't see what's underneath, and we often don't see how the real effect that we have on other people. And it's all down to the attitude that we have towards ourselves, towards others, towards the environment, towards other people and other situations. And so, you know, the wriggle room for me, that little worm, is the choice we've made, the free will that we have, is much more about attitude and less about, you know, who's sort of not pulling the strings exactly, but you know, how things are preordained for us.
And also the attitude and what you give out is creating all sorts of different energies,
Ripples,
ripples,
which go out into the universe.
yes,
And many universes that are out,
yes,
and we don't see that.
and probably don't end, just keep on moving.
Keep on moving. I know that when I'm talking to people in the spirit world, and I have, you know, let's say I have their family there, and they've come to talk with their family. They've not come necessarily to talk to me, but they've come to talk to their family. And vibration is so important, and we have to get onto that right level of vibration. And when we get onto that right level of vibration, it's amazing. It's like everything comes together. But if the vibration is off, it can skew everything. So anyway, Chris,
And it doesn't take much, does it?
Pardon?
It doesn't take much to skew that vibration.
No, it doesn't. Really, it doesn't.
No.
Chris.
All right, Eric's on. He's agreeing with you about attitude. X is saying, if we are already born preordained, how can our choices possibly change our life?
The choice of attitude, because the way that we deal with things has consequences. I'm going to go back to the analogy of the bread. The amount of time we leave the dough to rise, and that's our choice. So the amount of time we leave the dough to rise, or the anger and frustration, or the gentleness and the kindness that we show to people if something happens or we're involved in a situation, makes the difference. It makes a huge difference to how our life will taste or how our life will be enriched. So I think, you know, I think that for every action we take due to our choice of attitude, every action we take due to our choice of attitude can alter, even if only slightly. It can make things better, it can make things worse. If we come at something with anger and bitterness, if we have an attitude, a sour attitude, or if we have a mean attitude, then the bread that we're creating, the life that we're creating, is going to taste dreadful. But if we have a positive attitude, even when it's hard, if we have a positive attitude and a kind attitude, and we come at things with a positive energy, I think that can make the path smoother and easier. Or we can have people who, instead of being angry with us because we're angry with them, can be kinder to us because we are kinder to them. So I don't think it will change necessarily the overall picture. And I think that we're all here because we want to learn and we want to grow, and we can only learn and grow through the experiences that we have. And those experiences, some good, some bad, the thing that we have the choice about and we have the free will to do is to respond in a positive and a good and a great way, which means we have to have the right attitude, or we have a negative attitude or a sour attitude, and that's what makes
That's so destructive. Mm.
if that makes any sense. Okay, Chris.
Williams says sacred contract is the vocabulary I learned that we create our lives before we incarcerated everything. Thoughts?
Yeah, a sacred. I understand what you mean, but I think a lot of people won't understand that a sacred contract is something that, and many people have this belief that you make a contract prior to coming to this earth. You make a contract. You can say you make that contract with God. You can say you make that contract with a higher power, whatever it is you want to call it, but it's a contract, and that contract says you're going to have, not necessarily specifically, you're going to meet a man named Joe, or you're going to meet a man named Fred, or what have you, but the specifics are you're going to meet someone who will be able to give you this experience or that experience. I think it's too simple to say we make a contract to climb a mountain, to ski through the Alps, and then to go swim in Lake Lucerne. I don't think that's how it works at all. I think it works by, okay, you need to have an experience which will teach you this. God decides what that experience is going to be. And maybe prior to our birth here, we know some of what that experience is going to be, but we still choose to do it because it's more important for us to learn and grow than it is for us to sort of, stagnate, if you like. So I understand what sacred contract means, but I don't think, when you're writing a legal document, the I's have to be dotted, the T's have to be crossed, and every little thing, has to be written down so that you don't leave loopholes. But I don't think that's the way it is with life. When we make a contract with God, we say to God, over to you, because you know better than I do. You do have, I'm sure, some say in this. And, I think we say, this is what I'd like to learn. This is what I'd like to know. This is, having this life on this earth. I don't want it to be wasted. I want to know this, or I want to discover this about myself, or I want my soul to really grow and to become brighter and lighter. And I think then there are people who say, okay, in order to do that, she needs to go to school here. She needs to have that lesson there. He needs to, be in this place at this time. He needs to be born in this country or that country. I don't think we are personally involved in the minute specifics, because there's an entity, a much stronger entity that knows where we should be. It's like, we're never lost. We're always where we're supposed to be. Any thoughts on that, Kate?
Well, it sounds idyllic, doesn't it?
In what way?
You
mean we
are where we are supposed to be.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Does that mean, though, that we are devoid of all consequences?
No, because we still have free will to a point, and we can still mess it up or make it better. We
Right.
can. We have
Right.
the responsibility to learn our own energies and learn
Right.
how to manage them.
And as we get older and we teach our children this, you know, consequences can be good and they can be bad. They can
Yes.
be positive
Yes.
or they can be negative. And the consequences, you know, it's like you sit the kid on the chair and you know, you've had a temper tantrum and so you're sitting in that chair for the next 10 minutes or whatever.
Yes.
That's the consequence of being naughty. But there are consequences, you know, here's your ice cream because you were really good today.
Yeah.
I'm simplifying it, majorly simplifying.
Yes. Yeah.
But I think that life is a lot like that. And
Yeah.
there are consequences to our attitude.
But don't you will know that, and I certainly know, as you're saying it, I'm thinking, yes, I remember the consequences. And I remember thinking to myself over the years, well, okay, you're not going to do that again because now I know the consequences.
Right. So you
And
learn.
so I'm learning, and it's a humbling it's a humbling experience because you know that you've put it out there, you've caused it. Now you've got to pick it up and carry it,
Right.
and
But
that's okay.
you've caused it because of your attitude
Yes,
towards the
yes,
circumstance.
yes, that's right. The circumstance you haven't necessarily wanted or asked for or implemented. It's happened. It's landed.
Yeah.
And actually, if that happened again, you'd probably stand back and think, okay, let's have a rethink of how we approach
Well,
this.
you know what? I wish that were true because so many people are falling into the same, you know, pothole again and again. But one of the reasons I totally believe that there's a time to be born and a time to die is because being a spiritual medium, I've been able to, I hate to use the word predict because it makes me sound like a fortune teller, but I remember my daughter when I knew she was going to get pregnant. That was a given. I was told that by my father and also by Grey Eagle. And then, of course, you know, the questions came when she was carrying my grandson. You know, it was like, you know, well, when and how and what's the sex and this and that and so on and so forth. And I always try to make it a rule not to tell. But in this case, she was very persistent. Anyway, in this case, from the beginning, I told her that he would be born on Tuesday the 12th. The end. That was like, she was only weeks pregnant at this point. Tuesday the 12th of what, and I wouldn't say any more than that. He was not due to be born until about 10 days later. Oh gosh, but there he was. And then, and my daughter wasn't ready for it. It's not supposed to go for another week. As she's laying in the hospital bed, and then they're rushing her because she had preeclampsia. They're rushing her, you know, to the emergency room and so on. And then finally, you know, they thought he would come on Monday, the 11th, because they were trying to get the baby out. And I was just saying, no, not going to happen. And then a doctor came in and said, well, on Tuesday morning, well, it looks like you're going to have the baby sometime today, Tuesday the 12th. So she was so mad. She was sick. She was on medication. She looked at me and she said, all right, clever clothes. Because she really was so terrified. She wasn't quite ready to have this baby. She looked fine, clever clogs. So what time? So I gave her the exact time that he was going to be born, including the seconds. So it was the hour, the minutes, and the seconds that he was going to be born. And the next thing we know, and then she said to me, fine, morning or afternoon? And I said morning. And just as I said morning, the doors flew open. A whole bevy of people came, you know, floating through. The nurses, doctors rushed her down there. And she was laid in bed, and she was laying opposite a door, and above the door was this huge clock. And as she heard Reese's cry, his first breath, she looked at the clock and it was exact to the hour, to the minute, to the second. And I've seen this happen with people who have been born, and I've also seen it happen with people who have passed. You know, so I personally have experienced that, but I do get that it's hard for people who've never experienced that to quite understand what I'm saying. But anyway, let's go back.
All right. Mark says, well, my soul's path is ordained, and it has been my life to follow it as I'd weave in and out of my life path to my soul's. In the last few years, I sense and feel that I'm not too far from my soul's path as I go in with bumps and scrapes.
That's nice.
Well, those bumps and scrapes, my darling, are the tears and the heartache and the pain that are such a gift to you. Don't we love these gifts, Kay?
Don't we though? Yeah.
Let's have another one, Chris.
William says, I love the term attitude. By staying centered, chaos flows by faster and joy lingers longer.
Oh, that I have to tell you, that is so true. So amazingly, I'm going to just throw this in. Amazingly, I think it was this morning, I went into my messages for no reason, because I don't do that. I'm not a technical person, but I went into my messages and there is a message from my grandson, and it says, you are, wait a minute, you are darn cool,
Darned.
darned cool, and really awesome.
Oh, that's so nice.
And I love you. It's like, oh, great. And so he's got this, we have this great relationship. He's got a positive attitude, and we're trying to teach him to keep being positive. But just, you know, we talk about the pains and the heartaches in our lives, but for every one of us, you know, you look out the window and see a flower, or you look and you see the bright sunshine, or even the rain. Oh gosh, we needed that. You know, we look at, there's something in everybody's life on every day of every week that we can find joy in, even if it's only a teeny bit. And I think building our attitude means trying to find that one tiny little thing in our lives, even when our lives are, you know, just going all to pieces, but to force ourselves into finding that one teeny tiny little piece of, you know, joy is what keeps our attitude, our positive attitude, alive and well.
I agree.
Is that it? That's all you're going to say? Shall we let's have another comment or question then, Chris, if there are any more going.
Violet says there's something comforting about acknowledging destiny or fate has a hand.
Well, I agree, because I don't believe there are any accidents at all. I don't think there are any coincidences. Do you, Kay?
No, I don't believe in coincidence at all.
No. Why?
Oh, I'm not sure. Let me have a think about that one. Because things do slot in, and you find you'll meet somebody and you'll know them, you don't know where from, and then you'll meet them again, and then you'll realize you've met them before. And no, it isn't easily explainable, because it is about thoughts and feelings and
experiences.
And
right?
experiences, yes.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I'll say to people, I don't believe we're ever lost. And I remember years ago in Amsterdam, and we were looking for a particular place, and we were totally lost. We couldn't figure out on the map where we were. We completely and absolutely lost. And I said, we need to take a left down here. And the friend I was with said, no, we don't. We need to go straight on. And I said, because Greg happened to be tapping me on the shoulder, we need to turn left. So we turned left, and we're walking along this street and we don't know where we are and nothing is recognizable. And where we're trying to get to is nowhere. We're not anywhere near it. And all of a sudden, this woman is running behind us, towards us, shouting my friend's name over and over. The friend turns around and sees this woman that she hasn't seen for years, 10 years, who happened to see her go by the street through the window and come on in, and we got
But that's
taken
because
in.
you're open, isn't it?
Right,
That's
but we
you're
got taken
open.
in, we were given tea, we were given, lunch, whatever. We had a lovely time. And then when we told where we needed to be, she said, I can tell you exactly where that is. So you think you're lost, but actually you're not. And I'm sure for everybody listening to this, I'm absolutely certain that some of you will have had similar experiences. You turn a corner and there is a person that you've been thinking about a few days ago, and then they appear. There they are.
I remember thinking and feeling the same way. And there was a time when before the time when mobile phones were around, and I was having to travel early morning into all over the countryside, going to work, going to these teaching posts and all strange places, some pretty rough areas. And I was traveling early morning in very sort of, didn't know where I was. I got a page map. And I was asking people, and then it suddenly occurred to me, you're driving in fear. I'm in fear. So get rid of the fear. Just treat it as an adventure. Ask everybody you see, and you'll get there. And I did. And it was like a revelation to me.
Yes, but look what you did.
Yeah.
Change your attitude.
I changed my attitude, and I changed the course of the day and the course of the week and the course of the month. And I always found where I was needing to be within at least half an hour of class starting. But if I'd driven in fear and flapped and panicked, it wouldn't have worked.
No.
And that's an analogy for life, isn't it? You cannot live in fear. You have to trust your instincts. Right. And if for those that don't have any instincts, there's ways of learning.
Well, I think we have to pay attention, don't we? We have to raise our level of consciousness. That was in me. What is that? Well, actually, those of you who are joining me on we're starting a subscription program. Those of you starting with me on the subscription program are definitely going to learn at some point what raising your level of consciousness. Okay, Chris, keep going.
Vale is asking, so Rosemary felt already that her life would have this kind of experience with the afterlife, or did she understand it over time?
Oh, no. Okay. There are, and I've heard this, I've heard people say this, there are people who are born knowing certain things. They know so much because they obviously remember prior to coming here many of the things that they discussed with about their lives and what was going on. So there are people who do know, or to have an idea, somewhat of an idea of at least their life's purpose. Not me. I mean, I was blindsided from the word go. So unfortunately for me, fortunately, I keep having to remember tears and heartache and pain are our greatest teachers, our biggest gift. But I knew nothing, and I had no clue. I mean, I can remember, years and years ago. Do you remember Paul, who was in our group, when kRAk-ing first came to us and talked about who he was and what he was, and what he would be to me. I can remember one of the group afterwards looked at me and he said, and he was a healer, and he'd been a healer for like 30 something years. And he said, Rosemary, he said, I just feel, and like, I'm just not even mid-30s at the time. I'm at very early 30s. And he said to me, I really feel, because of Grey Eagle and because he'd heard Grey Eagle speak, he said, I think that you're going to be one of the greatest mediums. You're going to travel the world, and you're going to be one of the greatest mediums that we've ever known. And I remember thinking, what does he think he's talking about? Now, I can't say I'm the greatest medium, but I'm pretty good at what I do. I have traveled the world, so, but but you're asking, did I know? No, of course not. No, I never, and it was never an aspiration of mine to be the greatest medium, because who wants that job? It's a painful job. It's a tough job. I never understand why people have the inclination to want to be a medium, although I would never change what I do. I have to be clear. But it's a tough job. It's a really, really tough job. I think, wasn't it UK who said that you were with somebody the other day and they're going through a really tough time, and you came away and how drained you felt and how exhausted you felt? And I said, I know exactly what you mean, because that's my life every day. I deal with people who are suffering from loss and from pain and heartache. And the only way I can deal with this is by having an attitude of being able to see the positive, always to try, if I can, to see the positive. And my sense of humor helps me to survive.
Yes.
Chris.
Annika says, regarding the gift of tears, I know that tears earlier in my life shaped me to be a very balanced person and able to give to others. It also led me to my true love.
Brilliant. We love it. What else have you got there?
Violet says, it's true that every cloud has a silver lining. Sometimes you just need to look a little harder to see it, but it's always there.
Yes, you see, Violet, this is why you said earlier on, well, if we had a choice, I must have been drunk when I made my choice. But you see, there you go, because you've got such a positive attitude. And it is true that every cloud, even the worst cloud you could possibly imagine, gives us something. It's the worst is the worst pain you can imagine. If we look for it, it will give us, we will find a gift through it. We really will. Chris.
Lisa says, no matter the circumstance in life, both mine and others, I choose to be Little Miss Sunshine. My pets, as well as most of God's animals and special people in my life, give me the tears, happiness, fears, love, and joy in life. People crossing my path leave their mark on me as I do them. I feel God puts us here for each other at just the right time. I try to keep a positive attitude. I feel in this life I do need to work on patience. My choice in life is to be happy and do unto others as I would have others do unto me. I wake up each day with a good attitude in mind. Through both the good and the bad, we are where we are supposed to be. This is a very thought-provoking show today. Keep up the good work, ladies.
Oh, thank you. We love that, don't we?
Yeah, that's good.
I'm going to ask you to comment now, Kay. You remember she said, and patience. And I know for something, I have to tell everybody that Kay is the best mother I know. You are.
Great.
You have beautiful daughters, and if they were all sitting here, they would all.
Oh, they're stunning. They're
that
stunning.
does not mean you've not made 1,000 mistakes. I'm not saying that you treat every one of those girls the same. You give them the same amount of love, and they know it. There's no competition between them. No. And they all support each other, and they only do that because you have been there every step of the way, encouraging them to love and to care for each
Whether they want me to be or not.
whether they want it or whether they don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, and, I'm the surrogate mother who gets to
Yeah.
kick their bottoms from time
Yeah.
to time.
Oh,
Anyway,
you get good stuff as well.
well, yes, of course, but you can be, as I've said, you can be a really patient, and as a mother, you're incredible. With your art, you can be really, really patient. What are the things that you struggle with? Okay, I'm putting you on the spot.
You know what that is.
Well, I'm just saying, because I think it is, because we don't want to come across here during this show letting everybody think that we're perfect and we've got all the.
Who would think that? Honestly,
Well,
come
people
on.
think that about me.
Well, I know they don't think that about me, but I'll tell you, I am.
So, patience.
Patience, yes.
Any advice to help people with patience? Because I know that you do have a little Achilles heel when it comes to certain situations and people, especially as you get older. It's harder to tolerate certain things. Remember, we had this conversation this morning.
No, I'm remembering, yes. Yes, I think it's an age thing. And I think I'm going to adopt even that that song, When I'm Old, I'm Going to Wear Purple. Actually, it does give you a poem. I do feel as if I'm slipping into that, I'm sorry, sod off attitude, because it's not polite, it's not always kind. I would never say that to somebody's face and hurt them, but I might. No, I wouldn't. Like anybody could hear.
Sorry, no, she doesn't.
Oh,
no, she doesn't do that. No. We're just cracking up here.
Yeah, I do. I have become more less interested in minutiae, less interested in conversations that people want to have with me, less interested in smaller things that are going on around me. And I live in an area where it's full of life and small town. And I love it because I can sit up and look at my window and I don't have to become part of it. I can dip in and out when I want. I don't have neighbors that I have to talk to. I can dip in and out when I want. And I'm becoming very antisocial. And it's not healthy, but I like it.
But you know what? It's also was never like you.
No.
I mean, because you were always, and when you were younger, and even let's say up to 4 or 5 years ago, you've always been a very social person.
Yes.
But I do agree with you that as we get older, it is easy to slip into that.
Are you telling me I've got to joggle myself out of it and get sociable?
Yeah, maybe so. But it's just you do what you want. But of
course I will if you say so.
I think it is as we get older, we start to value. Life is short, and we start to, value. I mean, I might have 6 or 7 years left. That's not a long time to be, and I've got a lot.
Don't be putting numbers on it. That's not right.
What I'm saying is, you think about these things, and so life is short, and as you get older, you realize, it's getting shorter and shorter, and so you really don't want to waste time.
Okay.
On things that are unimportant.
Yes.
So then it's very easy then to become impatient with people who seem to be wasting your time, or they're having arguments or fights with each other.
Yeah.
That come on, get
Can't be doing with it. Can't be doing with it.
Yeah. So I think I'm a very, very patient person when I need to be.
You are.
But when I'm an incredibly patient person. I have immense patience until I don't.
No, and then it's.
And when it takes a lot for me to lose my patience, a lot. But when I'm done, because I'm not
I know.
going back into that situation again. So
I know.
anyway,
And
getting
very
back.
often the people or the situations that's happened to won't understand it's happened until they see
Well,
the
too late.
the dust over
The
the
door's
horizon.
closed, baby.
Yes,
Sorry,
yes.
opening that door again. I
Oh, yes, yes,
know, and that's hard. That's hard for
yes,
people. Who,
yes.
anyway.
But
But
yes, it is an age thing, and I very quickly, I think I feel a little lesson under there. Don't be trapping yourself in your studio, Kay, and painting and not talking to you. Get out.
yes,
But
you
there's
do.
not a lot of stuff that really interests me,
No.
unless it's further afield.
Yeah. Yeah. I know
There
exactly. I
are
know.
very few people I'm really interested in. I mean, I was having a lovely conversation last night with someone in California, and they interest me a lot. And I think they're on here today because there's a connection, mind connection, which is nice. So that sort of communication is great. But
Yeah.
I'm not interested in going and sitting in a coffee shop and eating cake with somebody from. Well, I might be wrong. There might
Unless
be.
it's me. Unless it's
Unless
me.
it's you. Well, if
All
you
right.
come over, I'll give you cake.
Okay. We're very close to time. In fact, we're over time. So I'm going to go to Chris. Do we have, we have time for, maybe one more or maybe two more, and then we are going to look how quickly the time went.
No, it's flown, hasn't it?
Chris.
Violet wants to know, do you ever see the Scotsman in the kilt anymore?
Well, it's so funny you should ask me that question, Violet, because the answer is yes, only very recently. Isn't that amazing? Next question. Moving on, quick.
Oh, what do? How? Why? What do you
No,
want?
I can't tell you. We don't have time. We'll talk about that another time.
Mark says, I'm not sure with certain, as I laugh writing this, that how possible is it for me to leave here without the bumps and scrapes? God knows I've fallen many times and will do it again, so long as I leave this world using all the gifts I was given prior to my entry into the world.
Well, I do think that, and I'm coming right back to it, this topic has been about, are things preordained or what have you. And I do think we come with certain things that we're hoping to learn and certain things we're hoping to grow from. We're coming here for a reason to enhance our ability to build our spiritual awareness. I don't think you can do that without the bumps and scrapes, Mark. But it sounds to me, and I, we've chatted a few times over this sort of medium of, when you visit the shows and so on. I do think that, I don't think, maybe I'm wrong. I'm asking Gregor this and I'm right. So I'm right. Okay. So why ever we came here and whatever the list was that we needed, that we came with to learn to grow and so on, however long it is or however short it is, I don't think we can possibly achieve all that we come for, but I think that we can achieve as much so that next time, or when we go home, when I refer to what you can call it heaven or wherever you want to call it, but when we go home, when we go to God, I think we will have enough knowledge so that whatever residue is left over that we didn't learn or grow from, we have the ability to continue to learn and grow. Life does not end at our physical death. Life continues on. There are no coincidences, and we hope that you've enjoyed this topic. And please, I'm go on Instagram, watch me on Instagram. I'm going to be talking a little bit more on YouTube, possibly maybe tomorrow, about this same subject, and maybe giving a slightly different slant on it, because I think it is interesting and I think people are interested in this kind of thing. So anyway, we shall be back in a month. It's been a whole month, Kate. It doesn't feel like a
It
month,
doesn't feel like a month, does it? No.
but we'll be back next month, the last Friday in the month, with my darling Kay, and for another session of Cracking Up. Join us, share this with people that you know. Let people know that we're here having fun and finding joy. And we hope that through this conversation that you've joined us with, thank you all for all of your comments, and thank you for joining us. We hope you've had a little bit of cracking up too. So thanks, Kay. Thank you, Chris, very much.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Kay. Thank you to Grey Eagle, and thank you to all of you watching. Until I see you again. There's a song in there somewhere, but I've forgotten the words, so I can't sing it. But anyway, until I see you again, we'll meet again. Don't know where, don't know when. Do you remember that?
I do.
Of course, it's a very old song. Anyway, until I see you all again, please, everybody, have a very, very blessed rest of the night, the afternoon, or the day, wherever you are in the world. Have a very blessed rest of the day. And have a very blessed weekend, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.